Welcome back. The global humanitarian response to COVID-19 has been widespread, despite a drop in humanitarian funding of $1.6 billion from 2019. Here in St. Lucia, from the onset of COVID-19, the St. Lucia Red Cross has been doing its part to help alleviate some of the burdens on the families that need it most.
At the beginning of 2020, humanitarian partners aimed to provide humanitarian assistance to 109 million people. Today, that number has reached record levels at more than 260 million people. This represents the single largest increase recorded in a single year. Locally, the St. Lucia Red Cross has played its part in helping those who need it most. President Hubert Pierre says the organization has been preparing for such a pandemic since 2012.
From the time we heard the China matter, we decided we need to plan, because we already knew it will make landfall in St. Lucia based on the knowledge that we had had previously. So we began doing things like risk communication instantly, posters of prevention, and focusing on wash your hands and that type of thing, distancing, especially for persons who are ill and the type of way the disease is spread, whether it is waterborne, airborne, and certain things we're not sure about. So we had to take the precautionary measure.
When the virus made landfall in St. Lucia, the St. Lucia Red Cross shifted focus to food security, training of individuals, and psychological support.
At the second level, when it makes landfall and things begin to get worse, we start doing what we call food security. And system feeding, we're distributing food parcels to people. And we aimed at 3,000 and 2,003 for vouchers, and we're actually doing the vouchers now. Then we had the 400 unconditional cash grants that we gave people through an ATM card. We went into training of 40 volunteers. We did psychological support with our volunteers. We distributed about 500 leaflets of the same for mental health, etc. And we did 200 posters with messaging to encourage persons to get in touch with their feelings, and one PSA on the same thing. And then, of course, we had the hygiene parcels, which we did 200 of these, to make sure the cleanliness.
The pandemic has exacerbated pre-existing and ongoing drivers of humanitarian need, mainly by causing economic activities to decline, reducing household purchasing power, and causing a multitude of food system shocks. The St. Lucia Red Cross says it will continue to work assiduously to get St. Lucia to a respectable level of dignity. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, OECS, continues to support member states in the fight against COVID-19. On Wednesday, the OECS received a donation of 6,000 PCR test kits, the gold standard in COVID-19 detection, with funds from the government of Brazil.
When COVID-19 was declared a global pandemic in March of 2020, the OECS embarked on a rigorous response to mitigate the effects on member states. This response included renewed partnerships with development agencies, a new partnership with the private sector, and support from bilateral friends. The government of Brazil donated $100,000 to the OECS in support of their response to obtain testing supplies. Part of that supply was 2,000 PCR test kits, which was donated to St. Lucia. The ambassador of the Federative Republic of Brazil to St. Lucia and the OECS said this initial donation is just the beginning of Brazil's willingness to assist the OECS region.
We have a credit with the World Food Program. They are doing this during the pandemics. They can do this through PAHO. And yes, we can send $100,000, and they can choose to buy whatever equipment or medicine they want. Well, I was so happy. But then pandemics and bureaucracy were not good friends. It took us 8 months to get this. And every week I was there tireless.
Dr. Carleen Radix, head of the Human and Social Cluster at the OECS, received the donation on behalf of the OECS, noting that the tests will help augment member states' capacity and responds to the in-country testing needs.
The OECS has reached out in terms of its partners and which it can do, but the work is done with regional collaboration and partnership. We've been working closely with CARPHA, PAHO, SEDIMA, CARICOM, RSS, our bilateral partners, donors, ongoing projects, etc. So it really takes, I don't want to say a village, I guess it takes a globe to fight a global pandemic. So to date, I want to say to date, based on that outreach, we have mobilized and delivered to member states, so there are things still in the works because there have been delays for many of the things that we've reached out for, but delivered has been 2.16 million EC dollars worth of supplies.
Another 2,000 test kits have been earmarked for Grenada, given the recent cluster of COVID-19 cases. The remaining test kits will be kept in storage to assist member states that may need them in future. 8,000 swabs or sample kits have already been distributed to the 9 participating member states of the OECS Pharmaceutical Procurement Services. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
The Ministries of Agriculture and Health continue to increase the inspection of butchers for proper meat handling procedures during this festive season.
The Ministries of Agriculture and Health have increased the monitoring and surveillance of butchery practices to ensure conformity to public health guidelines and procedures. Upon request, owners or managers of the slaughterhouse must present to the inspector the original copy of the post-ante-mortem certificate that renders the animal fit to slaughter. All butchers must obtain a license or permit to slaughter from the police. Acting Animal Husbandry Officer of the Department of Veterinary and Livestock Services, Columbus Philippe, informs any animal being transported from south to north must obtain a transfer permit from the Southern Livestock Station.
So if someone desirous of moving an animal from north, especially from south to north, you should visit the department, the Veterinary Services Department in Beaufort. An officer will issue you with a certificate to move that animal, a permit to move that animal. This is in light of amblyomma. And this animal will be treated before it is moved. And then when you move that animal, then the animal will be trapped, because it may need a second or more treatment at its new location.
Senior Environmental Health Officer Ernie Pierre encourages butchers and the wider public to adhere to the public health guidelines and procedures put in place by the Ministry of Health.
We have seen traditionally when it is being sold that it almost appears to be like a mass crowd event. There is gathering of members of the public and everybody in all directions calling for what piece of meat they would like. They will have to have a queue. We will have to be observing the 6 feet distancing and the markers, so on. Persons will have to have their mask, butchers will have to be masked, they would have to be properly attired, they would have to make enough provisions in and around the slaughterhouses for hand washing and sanitization of the hands of themselves, their helpers, and members of the public that are purchasing. So that is very, very, very important to ensure that whilst we facilitate the butchers in slaughtering and so on, and we do what we are supposed to do, we are not worsening things by creating a situation where persons can be exposed more to infections of COVID-19.
To ensure operations are not hindered, persons are encouraged to visit or call the environmental health officers in Bois d'Auberge or Vieux-Fort. From the Communications Unit of the Department of Agriculture, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Despite the challenges posed by the COVID-19 pandemic, Rubis West Indies has continued with its Christmas hamper drive this year. 3 organizations were the recipients of this year's donations.
Rubis West Indies Limited is bringing some more Christmas cheer this season with its hamper drive. The Villa St. Joseph's Home, the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities, and the Cerebral Palsy Association were all recipients of hampers compliments Rubis. Vanessa Joseph is the operations coordinator at Rubis West Indies.
Every year for the past 3 years, Rubis has done this hamper drive around Christmas time, where we go around the island and distribute hampers to the less fortunate, the elderly, persons with disability, and so on. However, because of COVID this year, we were not able to do that. we did not allow COVID to stop us entirely. So what we decided to do was to have this presentation here, but we will just go and distribute, and some persons are collecting their items from our office today.
Joseph says that this year's donation was upsized as COVID-19 has affected and continues to affect so many families. Present at Friday's presentation was Alicia St. Martin of the National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities.
The National Council of and for Persons with Disabilities is most thrilled to receive this extremely generous donation from Ruby St. Lucia. Thank you so much, Rubies, for working with the NCPD for the advancement of persons with disabilities here in St. Lucia. Thank you.
The announcement was made during a presentation by Ruby's West Indies to the group Do Something Different. For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
The St. Lucia Tourism Authority, SLTA, has just released an inspirational Christmas video message. Public Relations Manager of the St. Lucia Tourism Authority, Doreen Georges, says the message is a feature of the authority's 12 Days of Christmas that highlights St. Lucia's most profound Christmas traditions on Travel St. Lucia's social media platforms. It also coincides with the SLTA's Month of Gratitude, acknowledging St. Lucia's people and visitors for making St. Lucia a destination of top choice.
The video depicts the welcoming smiles of our people, the customary solo music and dance, as well as showcases our warm sandy beaches, irresistible sunsets, and the peaks and valleys of the island. Better than this video is the Christmas song by one of the island's greatest and one of our cultural icons, the late Calypsonian Jeff Elver, aka the Mighty Pele. And in this video, we really wanted to drive home the message that yes, we're celebrating in a different time, but we really wanted to highlight and embrace the things that are truly St. Lucian.
The St. Lucia Tourism Authority encourages everyone to take personal responsibility in observing the COVID-19 protocols outlined by the health authorities for a safe Christmas and continued holiday period. This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. The latest weather forecast is coming up next.